Welcome to our first Mentoring Mondays of the semester. I'm Katie. I'm the graduate assistant here, and we have Lauren Manginelli. She's a graduate student here at CCSU. She's in her final year of the Student Development and Higher Education program, which prepares her to serve in various roles in colleges and universities. She currently works as an academic coach in the Learning Center and is also an intern with the First Year Experience program at CCSU. If everyone else would like to introduce themselves before we start.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Colin. I am a computer engineering technology major.
My name is Andrew, and I'm a computer science major.
Hi, I'm Bella. I'm a psychology major.
Hi, I'm Marianne. I'm a history major.
I'm Leilani. I'm a sociology major.
I'm the director of the program, and I was a Spanish major as an undergraduate. So.
Sorry, I just want to double
And
check.
I make my students do this all the time. Yeah. So we're sharing the screen.
Yeah, but shouldn't it pop up? Sorry, that it's recorded. Sorry, can we go back? I just want to make sure we're recording because I don't see it. Okay,
I can tell by the either it's because of the red.
Okay,
I'm not too
perfect.
sure.
That's the sharing.
Yeah.
So I'll pull it up on my.
Or we can just like skip really quick and it really shows.
I'll check on my. Yeah.
It's okay. It'll tell us.
You are recording.
All right, perfect. We're good. Sorry, I was just double checking.
It's good to make sure.
We're good, Dr. Mahoney.
Awesome, thank you. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you guys for introducing yourselves. It's nice to know who I'm talking to. And thank you for having me in your space. It's nice to be here. We did a virtual presentation last year that I remember I was a part of. So it's nice to actually see kind of where you live and how you embody that space. But basically today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Learning Center and go into some time management strategies as Dr. Mahoney requested. But before I start, does anybody know what the Learning Center is, or has anybody ever been there?
I remember the talk from last semester, but I've never actually been there in person.
Yeah.
So.
I've probably passed by once or twice while lost in
Yeah.
Little
Yeah. Many people often get lost in there. It's a little bit of a maze.
All I know is they teach you how to study smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I always tell the students.
Yep, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Yeah, definitely. So we are in Willard D. Loretto. We're on the 3rd floor. We are right across from the Class Advising Center and right down the hall from the Writing Center. D316 is the location. I will have a contact slide at the end of the slideshow, so you can feel free to take a picture of it. And you can also share my email and my contact information, Dr. Mahoney, with everybody here as well. So we'll have some information on how to get to us. But you covered it. The Learning Center does teach you how to study smarter, not harder. I like that phrase. We also offer tutoring in a couple different subjects, but I'll get into a little bit about the details. So again, today we'll just kind of dive into what is the TLC, as we like to call it, talk a little bit about academic coaching, because that's primarily what I do, and then we'll talk about kind of your experiences as a college student. Just a show of hands, how many of you are first years? How many are sophomores? Sophomore, junior, standing-ish, senior? Okay, great. So we have some, all different levels. So I really do want to hear a little bit about how college has been for you, some things that you've learned as a student here. And then we can talk a little bit about time management and procrastination too. But if anybody ever needs to get up and excuse themselves, please feel free to. Or if you have any questions, always feel free to just interject as we go.
So I just want to say that I makes part of the reason that I like especially the time management program, right, is that I had a student years ago go from an F to a B in one of my classes. She wanted a redo of some things. I said, well, okay, but you have to do this. And as soon as she did this, there were no longer any problems.
Yeah, it is definitely a really great tool to implement. And if there are further issues after that, then we know, okay, maybe we need to look at something else like study strategies or reading comprehension or actually seeing a tutor for the content. But time management is often really at the root of a lot of problems, so it's a great place to start. But a little bit about the Learning Center. So like I said, we do tutoring, so we have a couple of different subjects that we tutor in, mostly the STEM subjects. So if you are looking for tutoring, there's psychology tutoring, business tutoring, computer science tutoring as well. Those are run by their own departments. So if you ever are curious about how to find them, usually a simple Google search will always do, but you can always feel free to call us too, and we'll direct you to the right place. We do classroom presentations, as you are witness to now, and you may see me bopping around from classroom to classroom. Placement testing for math is also administered at the Learning Center. So if you do have first-year students or even sophomores who haven't taken their math placement test and they need to, it can really be a confusing thing. They don't know whether they should submit their SATs, or if they don't have SATs, they're going to need to take a math placement. So feel free to refer them to us if they have any questions about that. We also do academic integrity workshops. So this is something I always say in my presentations, that I hope to not see anybody in one of those, because that's when we go over the academic code of conduct. So you'll be referred to a workshop if you ever do break the code of conduct, and that has to do with cheating, plagiarizing, and the like. So all of those topics we go over, and we really just discuss kind of the gray areas, because it's not something that's easy to navigate. It's not something that students are often intending to break. It's a simple, miscitation in a paper that can often result in them going to an academic.
And sometimes when it's the worst, I find there's a big overlap
Yeah.
between time management
Mhm.
and the academic integrity, because
Yeah.
students leave things to the last minute, they get overwhelmed, and then they're writing a paper or they're doing something and they don't realize that they cut and pasted something, or they didn't use a citation, or that's also sometimes when students do things that are really, really unwise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We
So,
usually boil it down to what we call the 3 U's. So they're unprepared, they're unsure, and they're, oh gosh, I forgot the 3rd U. Unprepared, unsure, and what says it? Does anybody have any ideas of what it could be? I'll have to get back to you. But yeah, time management is the so we do academic integrity workshops. That's going to come to me at another point in the presentation, and I'll
That's
force
okay.
back another U word. But then academic coaching, which is what I'll talk about a little bit more in depth, because that's what I do. I've been working as an academic coach for about a year now, and I really do enjoy it. I've seen it in a lot of different levels, because we had different COVID policies last year, and this year we're actually seeing students in person. So it's been a really great experience. In academic coaching, I like to differentiate it from tutoring by saying that it's all of the areas that make you a successful student that might not be related to the content. So it's all of the things about, what your habits are as a student in and out of the classroom. How are you doing with reading, note-taking, time management, study strategies, all of those other details that really do contribute to your success. So what does academic coaching actually look like? So this year we're doing both in person and virtual. Typically they're about 30-minute appointments that we book them out for. Sometimes they can last a little shorter, sometimes they'll last the full time. And really all we do is talk about you. So as a student, you can come to us and use an academic coach at any point in your career here at CCSU. We're available throughout the semester, and we're open Sunday through Friday. And usually we have some evening hours as well. So you can find those hours online or call our front desk about those.
and you all may not need all of this, but I guarantee you have friends who would benefit from knowing more about it, right? And often they don't want to ask somebody in authority, they don't, right? So if you say, hey, you can go get help XYZ place in this, because you are student assistants, but you're also kind of peer mentors too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And under pressure was the 3rd U I just remembered. So.
Ah.
But I hesitated.
Yep. So God, I got that cleared out of the way. Okay, so yes, we just really talk about the student. So if a student comes to you and you're referring them to academic coaching and they're a little hesitant, it's really something I would love for you to stress, that it's not a scary environment to walk into. All of us academic coaches are graduate students. So I feel like we are relatively easy to relate to. We try to be, at least, and sometimes it can be intimidating for the student to go to their professor first or to go to another staff or faculty member. So really sitting down and talking with us in our space or virtually can be a great place to start. And we're just going to want to talk about whatever is challenging them at that time. So they might be unprepared when they come to us, which is totally fine. We'll really kind of just ask them a lot of open-ended questions to learn a little bit more about their strengths, kind of how their classes are going, what things have been challenging for them in the past, and what they might anticipate as challenges throughout their semester. So we can do a lot of different things with them. If they're looking to have our services over the entire semester, we can create really structured goals and actually be that person that they check in with over the semester to see if they're reaching those goals, see if they need to adjust their plan a little bit. But sometimes we also just have students who come in and they say, oh, I forgot how to access tutoring. And I'll simply sit with them and show them how to sign on and book a tutoring appointment. So it could be a one-stop shop kind of thing, even if they maybe just need one of these calendars that we'll go over today. But we could also be that person that is their contact on campus that they like to check in with, somebody to hold them accountable. So that's a little bit about what an actual academic coaching appointment looks like. The reason you might want to stress going to academic coaching to your students if they do share with you that they are slipping, or if you yourself feel like you're in a class that might be out of your wheelhouse. So, there's a lot of different gen ed classes that you have to take here at CCSU, and it might not be one of your strengths. For example, I know that math is a big part of the program. I am not a math person, and I know not a lot of people are. There are some people who are really great at math, and I applaud you for that if you are one of those people. But I know that I would need a little bit of extra help in a class that's, not really in my realm of strengths. So what happens is the university has policies for academic standing. And if a student has a 3.5 to 4.0 cumulative GPA, they're in the dean's list. And so that's the top tier. The university says that good academic standing is quite a broad range. It's from 2.0 to 3.5 cumulative GPA. And then academic probation is anything under that 2.0 GPA. So this is the reason why someone might want to go to academic coaching, to not only strengthen their skills and help them as they continue their journey at CCSU, but especially we see this a lot with first year students, to kind of prevent them from getting into academic probation in the first place. Once they do hit that range of the 1.99 or lower, they're going to be required to come see us. So really just stressing, do the preventative work, really go see somebody if you have any questions, and then you kind of just have that in your toolkit and you can pull it out at any time.
So just so you know, if you find out about any friends who are in this situation, there is a danger zone that's 2.0 to 2.5. It usually means that somebody has at least one D, maybe an F, or if anybody has an incomplete. There's nothing wrong with any of this, okay? It's just that that's often where you run into trouble, and fixing it before you get, who wants to graduate on time?
I'm already past that.
I know, okay, but so anytime you get a D in anything that's not gen ed, or an F, or you have to withdraw from a class because you're overripe for whatever reason, that extends your graduation time by probably at least a semester, right? And so if we can cut that off and your friends as well, right? It's really expensive to have to spend more time, right? Sometimes your financial aid runs out or whatever, and they can help. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they can help.
Yep.
Above 2.5, my experience is, people are pretty much okay, but under 2.5, especially if they're first year students, that's where frequently people don't wind up coming back.
Yeah, definitely.
And both here at the center and elsewhere, we want to try and stop that.
Something we frequently do with students is GPA calculations. So even if a student's on probation, they come to me and we say, okay, it looks like you're getting an A, a B, a C, and a D in these classes that you're taking this semester. We'll plug those into a GPA calculation and take into account everything that they've done so far to see where they might end up with their cumulative. And often it's very, very hard to work your way back up. Doing retakes is one thing that really does boost your GPA up, but like Dr. Mahoney said, if you are in that danger zone, if you dip below that, it's really hard to do the work to just the math is against you, basically. That's what we see. And so emphasizing, not only do you want to finish your degree on time, but it can be very challenging to get back up into that good standing portion. So it's a really great resource for students who might be in that area who, stress to you that they are slipping in some of their classes, or just maybe they aren't getting grades back and they feel that they should be getting. So in other words, they feel very prepared, they get the test back and they say, wait, I got a D, oh my God, what does this mean? So we can help them figure out those discrepancies. Students can come to us at any point, no matter if you're on Dean's List, good standing, academic probation, you have to. But if you're in any of the other ranges, you can always come to an academic coach. So all students are going to have a different goal within this range, right? Some students might be shooting for a 2.7 because they got a 2.5 last semester, and that's their next step.
Or
That's
to
what
get
they're
into
trying
the
to achieve.
elementary ed programs, you need a 2.7.
Yep.
To get into the secondary ed programs, you need a 3.0 in your content area and an overall 2.7.
Yeah.
What are there computer science?
Just engineering.
Engineering, right, you have to get a B- in that first math class in order to progress on time, right?
Yeah, so there are different requirements. Business used to have a 2.5 requirement. I think they just recently dropped it to 2.0. But
Nursing has very
Nursing,
high,
yeah. Some scholarships require 3.0 at least. They will change depending on the scholarship, but we do see a lot of students who are coming to us because they drop below what their scholarship requires.
yeah, and I mean, one of the things that happens is that the university will require you, if you're under the 2.0, to go to the academic, to the TLC, but they don't require it if you're over 2.0. But sometime, one of the things that the university has a challenge with is students going from the first year to the second, retention from first year to second year. Students get discouraged. I mean, right? Things don't go as well as you hoped, like, what am I doing this for? I'm gonna quit, right? Or then at the second to third year, that's usually where you get into the professional programs that require a certain GPA. Criminology does that, right? And if you're not there, well, like, what am I doing this for? And this is a problem both for the particular student and their family, because families and students invest a lot of time and energy into your future, right? But it's also an issue for the student, because some of our ability to get financial aid from the federal government is dependent on the ability of students to make it all the way through the program within 6 years. Yeah, and if we have a lot of retention issues from the first to the second year, or the second year to the third year, the feds kind of go, they raise one eyebrow, which I can't really do. Yeah, and kind of like, so we want to, both from a personal and an institutional perspective, we really want to make sure that students make it all the way through.
Definitely. And so if you yourself want to use academic coaching, or you meet with a student who really wants to use our services, you can tell them basically how to sign up. So it's fairly straightforward. All they have to do is reach out to us. And again, our contact slide is going to be at the end. So they can call us, they can email us, or they can even just stop into our office and speak with our student workers up front or our administrators and schedule an appointment. The appointment is really going to be flexible based on when they're available. So like I said, we're open Sunday through Friday. We have a lot of evening hours too, online or in person. So really super flexible. It would be likely that we'd be able to find something for them within that week. So schedule their appointment. They would simply attend. So if they have specific questions, like perchance they have a syllabus that they're confused on, or a particular assignment that they're not really sure how to study or prepare for, they can bring their materials with them, or they can simply come and just establish that relationship, right? Talk a little bit about their strengths, weaknesses, kind of set some of those goals with us, kind of have just an initial intake appointment. And then afterwards, encourage them to check in. So it could be that one-stop shop kind of thing where they just need a calendar and then they're good to go. They can really take care of it for themselves from there. Or they might want to check in with us, bi-weekly, weekly, or just, right before those stressful periods of midterms and finals. So I have some students who will email me whenever they want to have an appointment. I have some students who like the structure of a weekly check-in and will actually sit down and make a study plan together because that's the time that they reserve and they have that as a habit going forward.
Can you do that for me?
Sure, yeah. Call and ask for an appointment with me.
Okay.
But so that's the general idea of academic coaching in the Learning Center. Before we move on to time management and some other things we'll talk about, does anybody have any questions about that?
You're saying the academic coaching.
Mhm.
If say I knew someone that was generally on top of this
Mhm.
stuff throughout the semester, but around exams or quizzes they kind of sparks.
Yeah.
That would be a good time to say, you know what, you're stressing yourself so much, go to the learning center. That would be one of those proper timing to, you know, suggest it. Because I know sometimes you've learned this lovely resource to try to, you know, at least early on before it even becomes a problem for them, suggest, at least notify them. Kind of get, sometimes you get brushed off because either they're stressed or something else.
Mm.
So this is what I'm trying to just establish here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So maybe it would be a good idea for you to let us know when your office hours are and the students can kind of drop by and go there themselves so that if they find out a friend that they need to, who needs it or whatever, they sort of know where the place is and can take people, if necessary, by the hand, say, here, I'll go with you.
Walk you
Yeah.
over.
Walk them over, I'll go with you,
Mhm.
and I'll set up an appointment, you know,
Yeah.
myself. I mean, one of the things that frequently happens, anybody gets an incomplete, right? So they have until 6 weeks into the next semester to complete the incomplete. 9 times out of 10, they turn into Fs. And then you sometimes drop into academic probation territory, not us, but, you know, people, because I check your transcripts at the end, and if I see anything that I'm worried about, I budget. But I don't see anything that I'm really worried about. But a good time to go to the Learning Center to do some coaching or, right, is if anybody has it incomplete,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. And so I can email you after this. I'll send you digital copies of all of the materials as well.
That's great.
I'll give you those office hours in case you do have a student and you want to walk with them. It is great if they, you know, make the appointment to come to us before those tests or exams, if that's their stressful period. But like you said, encourage that early on because it might be more of a conversation of figuring out what the root of that is. And it might be something where we have to do a little bit more prep work than right before the exam. It might be a little too late at that point. So definitely encourage us early on, but as long as they're making the appointment, then that's a big step in the right direction. Awesome. All right. So I want to hear a little bit from you all. What has your experience been like in college so far? So I know we've got a couple we got one sophomore, a couple juniors, seniors, everywhere in between. But what have you learned about the nature of classes, kind of how things work with classes as a college student, professors, assignments, things like that in comparison to high school?
I would say something.
Yeah.
So after being here a couple of years, I could say that it's important to have a good start, like to start strong,
Yeah.
because just everything will start falling back, then your schedule will be like jam-packed and you'll just have to cram a lot of studying in at once.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's good to like, you know, print all the syllabuses and like print, you can either make an Excel sheet or get a planner and do like all your due dates.
Mhm.
So that's just my suggestion.
Yeah.
Or what I
definitely.
picked up on.
Yeah.
That's
That's a good
important
habit.
part.
Yeah, going off based on that, I did that too. I always do that the first week. I write all my due dates. But also something I learned, like back in high school, I wasn't a big fan of homework. But coming into college, I definitely loved the homework. I know not every class do that. They just leave the house just your exams. But now that I have homework in most of my classes, it really helps me stay on task better. If I only have exams, sometimes I slip and I'm not studying as much.
Right.
But with homework, you kind of have to look at the material, you're reading it, and that can help me study more.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate the homework now.
Yeah, it sounds like a contradiction when you say that, but it's true. It's that time that you're spending outside of class to actually do the work.
Yeah, it's like
And
forcing
sometimes,
me to do it,
exactly, yeah. Sometimes it is assigned, and then the other times that it's not, it is still your responsibility. And that's the kind of thing that usually falls short of students understanding, definitely within their first year. Did anybody else have that similar kind of experience? Yeah, I did too.
I think it especially becomes important when you're taking like your higher level courses. When it's kind of just like, okay, I'll give you like practice homework to do, and I guess that's like, becomes harder to actually like stay in mojo with it the whole class mojo.
Yeah. So there's this, there's actually this diagram called Bloom's taxonomy, and it shows us the levels of thinking skills that we use in assignments and in our work. So it's shaped like a pyramid, and at the bottom are the basics of remembering and understanding. So that's like memorizing dates, knowing names, events, definitions, things like that. And as you go up the pyramid, it moves on to things like applying, evaluate, contrast, create. And if you look at your syllabi, those are the types of words that are listed in the actual, either exam questions or in the objectives of the course too. Those are the things that your professors want you to do with the material. And so it takes a lot more effort to get to the top of that pyramid, and I think a lot more time invested on your own, definitely. Cool. What about your schedule?
One of the things that I noticed in class, especially with first year students, is they are accustomed to going to class every day or 4 out of 5 days in the week, and they sort of assume that if you come to class, you don't have to do anything else. And in college, a lot more is incumbent on the student, right, from keeping up to date. I like to tell my students that one of my favorite comments in a student opinion survey once was, I had no idea what was going on in this class, and then I did the reading and it all became clear.
Yeah.
Because I don't go over each individual reading,
Right.
I like do something else in class to kind of put it all together,
Right.
right? And if you haven't done any of the reading, it's just kind of like, oops, where are we?
Yeah. You want to be able to do those higher level things in class and for the assignments and everything like that. So I think that definitely is something that especially first year students struggle with. So one thing that we try to share with them is really explaining what those expectations and what the nature of the work is like. And that's something that I think you can also share with students as well. Explaining that experience, really showing from your perspective some things that you experienced and how you learned, I need to, have the responsibility to do a lot of this on my own time. I have a little demonstration here to just kind of highlight how we spend our time. So if you don't mind holding that end. So this used to be decor in the Learning Center, but it's really good for a visual representation if anybody is a visual learner. So we took it down and we're using it for that. Here we have 24 circles. Can anybody guess why we have 24 circles?
Is there 24 hours in the day?
Bingo, there we go. So this is your day right here. And I want to kind of start to chip away at it to actually show you how much viable time you have when you need to do that work.
I think I'm going to have an anxiety.
Yeah, it can be, it's very illuminating, but it can be a little anxiety inducing. But we'll go over some resources afterwards about how to handle it. And so the first thing that I want to start with is something that takes up a lot of our time, or that we like to take up a lot of our time, which is sleeping. So yeah, so I've got some good responses. How many hours do you think you're getting of sleep per night?
So now I get like 6 and 7 when I really need 8 or 9.
Yeah. Yep. And that's an issue for a lot of students, I think. How many are getting ballpark 7? 6?
Between 4 and 7.
Oh goodness.
Oh wow.
I think I got 5 last night.
Okay.
And you can tell the difference in my mood when I walk into class, when I walk in here. But I got into those like run of the day things, and it was way too late.
Yeah. All right. So let's say I'm hearing that 6 is a decent average, just to represent what we've got here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. What else are we doing? We're in class, right? So on an average day, about how many hours are you in class for?
4 to 6, 4 to 5. 4.
5, 3,
Yeah, 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Should we go with 4? Go with the heavier day. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. What are some other things we're doing? Is anybody commuting? Yeah. How long is your drive?
An hour?
An hour.
An hour for
To and
both?
from.
To and from?
An
Okay.
hour from me.
Oh, no. It depends on the time. It's supposed to be an hour, but it takes me like 40 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just say 2, because we'll include like getting ready, kind of getting out the door, that kind of thing adds up. Parking, walking to your class. So depending on your commute, could be up to 2 hours of just prepping and getting here back and forth. All right, so we've got class, we've got commuting. Is anybody eating throughout the day? Does anybody like food?
Trying.
Yeah, we're trying, right? So breakfast, lunch, dinner, however you're sneaking in your meal times, if it's snacks, how much time do you think cumulatively you're using just to sit down and have a bite?
3 hours for the
Or make food,
Yeah.
or
Make
prepare
food.
lunch.
Yeah.
About 3. I snack a lot.
At least 2 hours.
Yeah,
At least 2 hours? Okay, we'll agree on that. I do snack a lot too, that's my habit. All right, what about some
How about working,
working? Yep, we got jobs either on campus, off campus,
or both?
or both. On a normal day, how many hours would you say?
4.
4? 4 or 5? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go with that. Okay. And now we're getting down to the wire. So,
Fun?
yeah.
What's the free time?
So, exactly.
Fun, exercise?
Yep. So these are all of the things you have to consider, right? Are you hanging out on passing times, talking with your friends? Are you watching your show on Hulu or Netflix that you like? Does anybody go on TikTok?
Yes.
That's an hour right there, easy, right?
That's a rabbit hole.
Oh,
Yep,
yes.
that is a rabbit hole. That could
Downward
easily
spiral.
chew up half of this right here.
Well,
So all of these other things, if you're prioritizing, if you have a counseling appointment, if you have a doctor's appointment, taking care of your physical health, going to the gym, whatever else you might be doing, even just here, I know you might have downtime here sometimes, but things like this hour, you're using it productively, but it's another hour that you might not have
It's gone.
to, exactly. So as we're going down to these final circles, it's important to really figure out how we're going to utilize this time, because it's not the greatest idea to have this left and go into it without a plan, because then we're going to end up wasting what we have that's remaining. So the first resource I want to share with you.
Does that automatically go back together?
No, I'm probably going to tape it when I go back to the office today, so I can
So
use
that
it
was
in another
really a
class.
wonderful visual exercise.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big visual person. That's why some of these resources help me, because I like writing it out and seeing it on paper in different ways. But I really like this activity because it does show you how much time the little things take up too out of your day. And so when we talk about time management, the Learning Center, we like to boil it down to 4 different steps. So it's not all just about planning. A lot of people say, oh, I need to get better organized. I need to start writing to-do lists. That's not the only thing that you can do to really increase your time management skills. So the first thing I would say is knowing yourself. And that's really just about what your habits are as a person. So what have you learned about yourself? What are your tendencies? How many people are an early bird?
Only recently.
Recently? Yeah, it changes sometimes, right? How many people are night owls?
Still have it.
Yeah, you're all hours.
I still have it.
Yeah. So really knowing that about yourself and what some things are that might make you distracted, what some things are that reward you. Knowing yourself in those ways, what your habits are, and leaning into those when you can. Looking ahead is the second thing. So I was using this example last week when we got back from Labor Day, that awful rain we had. Did anybody check the weather before they came to campus? Yeah, to know that it was just going to be raining for hours and hours. So you would look ahead to check the weather before you come in, right? To see snow, rain, all of those things to prepare yourself. The same thing happens with your syllabus. The syllabus that you get at the beginning of the semester is essentially your weather report for the next 3 or 4 months. You have all of that already. So looking ahead what you've got to do. And that can be anxiety inducing, definitely, but you can definitely use that in your preparation. Making it doable, that's the third thing. I would say that's just about taking those big mountains and breaking them down into smaller hills. They're still going to be a little challenging, but they're going to be much more approachable. And then the last thing is monitor, modify, and reward. So that's all about, again, being aware of your habits, how you're growing as a student, and really rewarding yourself for the changes you're making. So the first step of knowing yourself, I'll pass these around, take one, there will be extras. So these are called time diaries. And they can be used as a planning tool if you really need to plan out your day very strictly. So they look a little intense. They're your entire week broken down into half-hour increments. But the way that we usually share this with students is to use it as it's labeled, so as a diary, as a way to be reflective about how you're spending your time. And what you can do is you can go through and say, for example, this Monday, you would block out those times that you are, for example, sleeping in the morning. So what time do you generally wake up today? Block out until then. You can block out things that are stable in your schedule. So those things we talked about, like classes, work, when your meal times are. As you start to block those things out, it'll really highlight when those last couple of circles are for you. So when those free times are in your schedule. That's something that we have to do in the beginning of each semester, I think. It's definitely a learning curve as you start to learn your schedule and when is best to kind of fit in those times for doing work. So also just knowing yourself, if you are a morning person and you say, okay, Tuesdays, I actually have a really large amount of time until I go to class. Maybe I'll wake up a little bit earlier because that's when my brain is most active, and I'll schedule some stuff during then. If you have evenings open and you're seeing that and you're saying, oh, this is actually my productive time, what have I been doing? And then you do this time diary and you realize, oh, I was scrolling on TikTok. I was playing games with my friends. I don't know where the time went. I was doing laundry. I was picking up my little sister. I was making dinner for my family. All of those other things that we do, which may also need to happen, but it's helpful to know that and be able to plan around it. So this is a great way to be reflective and find time for all of those different things that we have to do during the day. As you do this, if it's something that you do practice, you can see on the back that there is a tally sheet. You can kind of implement this in however way you'd like. The purpose of it is really just for you to say, okay, I filled out my time diary for Monday. My main priorities this semester for myself, I would say, are doing well in my academics, supporting my family, and being careful with my mental health. Those are the things I'm trying to prioritize. If I'm looking at Monday and I say, okay, well, I only spent an hour on reading and I don't think I got that far, and I skipped my counseling appointment today. Well, then I'm not really prioritizing the things that I set out to. So you can really see how your time reflects your priorities. The next thing, so looking ahead, as I mentioned, so you have your syllabi for each of your classes. We like to use this calendar. You can pass these out too. It's called the Semester at a Glance. You probably remember it from the last time this presentation was given, or you've gotten it, through other means.
You're not an artist.
And you don't have to be either, yeah. So it's just more of the visual piece of seeing when those free spaces are. So this Semester at a Glance is a really great way to kind of lay out that weather forecast if you want to continue with my cheesy little metaphor. So I like to put all of my due dates on this one sheet of paper. A lot of us are juggling, 4 to 5 syllabi, and that's a lot to keep track of. Not every due date is going to be listed in Blackboard. Your syllabi are really the go-to place. Your professor might not even, remind you of certain things that are coming up as you have classes, because also it's not their job to do that. But that's something that I think first years especially need to adjust to. So I like to put in all my due dates in this one calendar so I can see when things overlap. So your professors are also not talking with each other and saying, oh, can you leave the week of the 19th open? I really want to have an exam for Bella in our psychology class. And they're not communicating that way. So for each of your professors, you are in their eyes a full-time student. You are only in their class, and that is all they know at some points.
And we have a responsibility to your future employers.
Exactly.
That you, have competency in the area, even if it's not your major, because one of the things that the gen ed classes do is they kind of stretch your brain in multiple different, they get you ready to think through problems in different ways. Yeah. And so the fact that it's a gen ed class, or that you have, so I got an email this morning, students going on vacation for a couple of days in the middle of the semester. He's informing me now to go to England. to visit his elderly grandmother. And like, I hope that's okay with you, Dr. Mahoney.
I don't care.
I'm like,
I don't care. As long as you keep up, go ahead.
you know, like, what am I supposed to do? Like,
Yeah.
oh, Dr. Mahoney, my family's going on vacation, like over Labor Day. It's like, well,
Mhm.
what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, yeah. So this is a great place to also keep all those personal events too. It doesn't have to be just a calendar of deadlines and gloom, you know. So it's nice to put in those personal dates, not only to be aware of when you might not have as much free time as you typically do, but also just to have something to look forward to throughout the semester. There will be those weeks where you're going to be very stressed, and I'm sure you all have experienced that in all of your semesters. But having, you know, a birthday, a family dinner, a holiday, something that you're looking forward to is kind of nice to put in here. So that way, if I'm looking at this week and I said, oh man, I have 2 papers due this week, but then I look at Saturday and I say, oh, I'm going to my grandma's birthday party. That's going to be so nice. I'm going to see some family I haven't seen in a while. I'm really looking forward to it. And you can really tie your motivation to stuff like that. So it's a great calendar to have. It's got university dates on here, like when we're closed for holidays, things like that. And it also has so many resources listed on the back for students too. So any sort of tutoring, advising, counseling and wellness, student disability services, all other things that are free to them that will really help them in their semesters here. Yeah. And so we make these each semester. So you can always come to the Learning Center. We have them right at the front desk. And like I said, I'll also give Dr. Mahoney virtual copies so that you can have digital ones as well, because I know some of these boxes are a little small. So the last resource I want to share with you is all about making it doable. And this is what we call the weekly study plan. The example on the board is a little small, so I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but basically how you use this is you write all of your classes in that left-hand column, and then you write the due dates that you have for each class right next to that. And that's outlined in the top. It gives you a little bit of instruction. So at the very top, you can start it out on whichever day you're sitting down to get yourself organized. So for example, if we were doing this today, I would start with Monday, and you can go through there. And then I would write down those due dates, kind of see how much time you have. So for example, if you had 25 pages of history reading due on Friday, that's going to give me about 4 days to do that 25 pages. I can break that down however I would like. So this is a little bit about knowing yourself too. How many people can kind of sit and read for a while? They kind of knock that out in 1 or 2 sittings. Yeah. How many people would need to spread that out? Yeah.
It depends on the topic.
Definitely.
And the type of book.
Definitely.
If it interests me,
Oh,
1 or 2
yeah.
sittings done.
Done.
Doesn't, it drags out.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're reading and you're going through paragraphs, and then you look up and you say, what did I just read? That happens a lot. So if that's something that you frequently do, what I would do is say, okay, I have 4 days, let's say it's 20 pages, 4 days to do these 20 pages. I'm going to break that down and do 5 pages a day. That's something that sounds a lot more doable. For me, like I said, math is one of my weaknesses. So if I had a math assignment, say it was 25 problems and I had 5 days to do it, I know some students who would really just sit down and get through it because that's their strong suit. I personally would not want to do that math homework. I would procrastinate it. But if I broke it down and I said, okay, I'm going to do 5 problems a day, and it came time to do my homework, it quickly turns from, oh, I have to go do my homework assignment to, oh, I need to do this homework assignment, but it's only going to take me about 30 minutes. That's not too bad. I'll be uncomfortable for a little bit. I won't like it, but I'll put on some music and I'll get through it. So breaking those things down, really knowing yourself and checking in if there is a day on this week that you're totally booked, that you can't get any work done. So being realistic about it is the other component. So for example, if you work outside of school, if you have other family obligations, if there's a day that you just don't really get to homework because that's just the way your schedule is, that's okay. That's what happens to a lot of people. But be really cognizant of it and block that out on your schedule. So for example, if say it's Monday today, if I had a test on Thursday, that gives me like 3 days to study for it. That's not too bad. I would like a little bit more, but then wait, Wednesday I have class all day and then I have my work shift from 4 to 10 p.m. And I know Tuesday I have a lot of classes, and you can kind of just keep taking days off based on your availability. So that can quickly go down from, say if you had 5 days, it could quickly go down to 4 or 3, and that's when they start to get a little bit stressed. So really working your way around those dates and keeping those dates that you need for yourself as well. If you do have Sundays that are dedicated to family, or you have a fantasy football league that you just drafted, whatever your hobby, your activity is, those things are also part of our mental and physical health, right? We want to keep a good balance. We want to be able to budget time for those things. So really be aware of what you like to do, because as soon as you tip that balance, that's when we start to get a little stressed. And so that's when procrastination can play a role too. And so monitor, modifying, and reward was the last little tidbit, last step. And so really, like I said, it's about taking stock of how you're doing throughout the semester. If you are making slight improvements, that's great. It's about progress, not perfection. So how are we rewarding ourselves when we do? How are we tying that motivation in? Because like we mentioned earlier, a lot of the work that you do first classes is your own responsibility, but honestly, so is a lot of the motivation, so is a lot of the drive. So whatever your motivation is, it could be anything from your personal goal, could be wanting the degree itself, could be wanting a certain job that you've got your heart set on, feeling prepared. It could be tied to your family, making somebody proud, setting a good example for a younger sibling, whatever it might be, remembering those things and rewarding yourself as you grow as a student. Does anybody have any specific self-care routines that they like, or little treats that they do? Something chocolate. There we go.
Always get like a Ben and Jerry's at the end of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
Good a week.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Food is a great one. Sometimes it's not. I don't know. It takes a lot of our money and gives us a little bit of extra weight, but it can definitely give us a soul sometimes too. Yeah, it's worth it. So if you struggled when I asked you that question, I would highly encourage you to, reflect and think of something that you can do, something small, even just to implement. As you're doing your work. It could be saying, okay, I finished my homework, I'm gonna go watch an episode of my favorite show, or I'm gonna set a timer and let myself scroll TikTok for 15 minutes, whatever it is. And so the last thing I want to touch on just briefly is procrastination. So how many people would say that they're a procrastinator?
Chronic.
Yep. So that's an issue when we use language like that, because we say, oh, it's because I'm a procrastinator, if that's a reasoning. Oh, on the table.
Put some of this on it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
The alcohol in
See
it
if
will
that'll
help.
work.
I'm sure we have wipes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do.
you do. I'll get.
So when we say I'm a procrastinator and we just leave it at that, you're putting the blame on that word. But what is that word exactly? So procrastination isn't actually an identity, it's not a personality trait. There's a lot of different reasons why you are procrastinating. So the first step is really just taking a look under that iceberg and saying, okay, is it because it's pointless, like it's a gen ed that I'm really not interested in, and I don't have the motivation. I'm not capable, I don't know where to start, I'm gonna fail, it'll take too long, I'm confused. All of these are reasons why we procrastinate. So the first step is really seeing what that root is. Some other tips that we have, using your phone to help you. So I know our phones can sometimes be the detriment, right? We're scrolling on social media, we're distracted by text messages, whatever it might be. And so what you want to do is maybe set a timer and say, okay, I'm going to study for 20 minutes or whatever your max is. Put that phone in a different room, and then when it goes off, okay, it's time to take my break. Really breaking down and using those increments. Mindfulness training. Sometimes you just need to kind of refocus, recenter yourself. Do some guided breathing from YouTube, and kind of calm yourself before you jump into a stressful task.
Go for a little walk.
Whatever.
Walk down the bottom of the stairs here, come back upstairs. Yep. 10-minute walk is, even a 5-minute walk can be amazing, just kind of resetting.
Yeah.
And it gets oxygen and more oxygen to your brain,
Yeah.
so you can start falling asleep while you're eating.
Absolutely. Doing the worst thing first. Sometimes that's something that I don't do, and I'll notice it now that I give all of these presentations. So doing the worst thing first is going to help, because you're just taking that anxiety, that big mountain, and just attacking it up front. So even just starting is going to be the hardest part, right, with that worst thing. So all you have to do is even just set 5 minutes for yourself. Say, okay, this is the worst thing. I'm going to do it for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go and do that other thing that I need to. So you're going to do, more than you anticipate within that 5 minutes, I think, but also you're starting, which is the hardest part. So really, if you are procrastinating, how many times do you procrastinate and you're like, okay, I need to go and clean my house all of a sudden, or everything else seems so much more important, right? So
I call it productive procrastination.
Productive procrastination,
Because
yes.
in the end, it is. You do it and you probably put it off and forgot about it.
Yeah.
Making progress.
But you'll be tired afterwards. hours usually. Some part of your energy is going to be drained from that. So even if before you do the cleaning or whatever it is that you're thinking of doing, setting your phone for 5 minutes on a timer and saying, okay, I'm going to do at least 5 minutes of this, and then I can do whatever else my procrastination brain wants to do. And then changing your thinking from have to versus choose to. So again, saying I have to complete this assignment, like, oh, this is something that I have to do, I'm absolutely dreading it, to choose to. So that's relating it to that motivation, right? It's, no, I'm actually choosing to get this degree, I'm choosing to pursue this field, so I need to do this homework assignment. It might be cheesy, but it's a simple language that we tell ourselves that really can change the outcome of things. And then using all of these tools to break down and schedule and plan everything so that it's a little bit less overwhelming. I know I went over a little bit, but I have my contact information slide there for anybody if you'd like it. And does anybody have any questions on anything?
What's the latest time the learning center will be open?
It depends on the day. So the latest we're open, like the last appointment would be 6:30. There's, oh no, actually we do have a coach this year who's working till 7:30 would be the latest appointment. But I will send Dr. Mahoney that list of our office hours because it is a little scattered. Typically it's 8 to 8. I think Tuesday is the only day that we all have class, so we're 8 to 4.
Okay.
And then Sundays it's 1 to 5.
And schedule into your time the opportunity to clean up messes that you make that you didn't anticipate while you
Yep.
were doing your.
Yes. So sometimes I'll do an activity with students on the weekly study plan, we'll call it a challenge, and I'll give them a bunch of tasks to lay out. And then I say, okay, wait, but then your car breaks down on Wednesday. How does that change everything, right? Yeah. So we do want to implement.
And that, I frequently get car breaking down, somebody in the family sick or, right? As a reason why students don't make it to class, right? Flat tire, that kind of thing. And I'm actually, so I'm pretty flexible about attendance but although I do keep track of it. I'm not a professor that has 3 strikes and you're out. Because as you can just imagine, like, if on top of this, I had to figure out like how many times people were absent. Like, this is a level of record keeping that I became a college professor, so not to have to do.
Yeah.
Okay. But there are faculty members who, if you miss 3 classes, as far as they're concerned, you've lost all your class participation time. Right? Or in some, you failed, according to them, you failed the class. Yeah. And I don't do that, and apparently I have a reputation of being the most flexible person in the history department, which comes with its own set of challenges, which students sort of think like, wow, I'm going to England on vacation, an explanation is not a valid excuse. Like death in the family,
Fine.
is an excuse, is an excused absence. But, a reason why you're not in, you make that decision yourself. It's not up to me, right? But other faculty members do. I mean, what I basically say is if you miss a class, then you take the reading and you look at the PowerPoints, and all my notes are not on the PowerPoint, because why go to class if everything's on the PowerPoint? Like, oh my God. No, seriously, it's awful. And, back there, like go back. See this over here on the right? What I would do is I would put animations in there so that it comes up on clip. Because what people will do is they will read this whole thing and not pay any attention to what you're saying.
Right, like making them go.
Right, so if you click out of here. Right? And this too.
Yeah.
You can fix it so that as you want to say the words, it comes popping up on this. Yeah?
Right.
Oh, really? And it's a way of not slowing them down, because what I noticed a long time ago in class is that when you put a whole list of tell me if I'm imagining things, right? There's a whole bunch of words on the screen. Everybody's writing down on the screen, paying no attention to what the professor's saying.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. And it's one of, when I see job candidates now, if they put all of that up at once, I'm like, I mark them down, because it means they don't understand how to present to
I always wondered that. 'Cause
an
it's like,
audience. It's really bad.
yeah, it's like, do you want to take notes with the notes that are already online, or do you want to take notes of what you're saying?
I expect you to take notes of what I'm
What
saying,
you're saying,
which
right?
includes what's on the screen, but I don't put all that stuff on the screen at once, unless I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right, and there are sometimes I make a mistake, right? But I don't put multiple pictures up at the same time, and I don't put multiple lines of text up at the same time. Because then students have that question, it's like, what do I write down when? Yeah, and I might have a half an hour worth of text on the PowerPoint, but I don't want it all to come up at the same time.
Before you leave, I want everyone to sign this, and we're gonna give it to you, and I want to thank you on behalf of
You
all
know,
of
thank you,
us
Laura, this was
for
great.
teaching us all about Learning Center, especially about time management. And I want to invite everyone to next mentoring Mondays. We're gonna have Understanding Student Disabilities on September 19th. And we're gonna have Survi Patel, the Director of Student Disability Services. Tomorrow, we're talking Tuesdays, I'll hold it up. Corey Juan Mills, he's the performance manager for the city of Hartford, the CCSU alumnus, class of 2015, and I believe he was your student.
He was my student, and he also won a president's citation. He was a president of Collada. He was a president of Collada, the Latin Dance Association, and he was the SGA treasurer.
So join us next Tuesday for that, sorry,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow at 12:15. And then,
He marched with us in the parade.
yes, he did, he was holding the banner. And then we're gonna be having a flag raffle. We're gonna post these all over campus for you to have a chance to win prizes. Take a photo of yourself behind or in front of one of our flags that we're gonna have displayed for Hispanic Heritage Month around campus. And you'll see, you have to follow steps 1, 2, 3. Send us, like, tag our Instagram. You'll see the flyers, but tag our Instagram with your photo, and then sign up at the center. We're gonna have a link too. Thank you.
So thank you, Lauren, this was great. Yeah, this was great.
Nice to meet you all.
So,
Let's see.
I've been to a lot of these, and this was by far the best.